Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. My name is Ashutosh. And first of all, sorry for our apologies for the delay. We had some technical glitches in the beginning. Um, but yeah, I'm Ashutosh, and we're all good here to start. I'm part of the developer relations team. I'm a developer evangelist at R3. And what we're going to do today is we'll be doing a small conversation with Jonas Molders. He is a part of Chainstack, and we'll be talking about Corda deployments with him. Yeah, so I'll briefly allow others in the stream to just give an introduction from their side. I have Sneha as well from R3. So over to you, Sneha, and then we can have Yona to just give a small intro from his side as well.
Thanks, Ashutosh. So, hi guys, Sneha here. I'm also like Ashutosh. I'm also part of Devrel team at R3. So yeah, without getting, without having taking a lot of your time, let's quickly jump on to Yona. Over to you, Yona.
Great. Thank you, Ashutosh and Sneha. Happy to be here today. So yeah, my name is Yona. I'm a product manager based out of Singapore. And I work on a managed blockchain services platform that's called Chainstack. I've been with the company for a bit over a year now, and essentially helping them to develop their enterprise blockchain solution. We're working very closely with Corda developers and partners and generally people in the Corda ecosystem to help them build and develop on top of Corda in general. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's fascinating. So, Yona, to quickly get started, what do you think? Like, what does Chainstack do exactly? And to talk, since we're talking about this, how did you actually land in Chainstack?
Sure. So yeah, as I mentioned, we provide managed blockchain services. So what that means is we make it very simple for developers all the way up to enterprise networks and applications. So we support a multitude of different protocols, Corda being one of them. We also support Quorum, Fabric, and some public chains as well. But yeah, we build tools that make it very easy, very cost effective to deploy and manage complex, distributed ledger technology and blockchain infrastructure that runs behind blockchain projects. So we also are a very flexible platform. We are kind of flexible to the needs of our customers, whether they want to deploy in the cloud or on-prem or in their region of choice. And yeah, so that's what Chainstack does. About how I arrived there, well, I was drawn to Chainstack initially and just blockchain and DLT space in general to see how it was impacting and altering and changing a lot of industries out there and their landscape in a number of different ways. And as I was living in Singapore at the time, Chainstack was particularly interesting as they had a focus on enterprise use cases. So seeing how these large established organizations were considering how they could, improve their practices or improve their operations or figure out how blockchain could fit and exploring and experimenting a lot of different possibilities with this new technology. And this is kind of what Chainstack addresses, making it very easy for companies to start exploring, to have prototypes up and running very quickly, and then also scale these and bring them up to production. So when I joined Chainstack, I think they were just launching their version 1.0 about 1 to 2 years ago or so. It was a great time to join and help them to address those challenges in the market.
Okay, that's cool. That's pretty good to hear. So basically you connect with a lot of platforms. So if I really have to talk only about Corda, so how would you say, how is Chainstack related to Corda?
Yeah, so Chainstack launched its support for Corda last year at CordaCon in October. And our initial offering was to allow anyone to very quickly deploy production grade private compatibility zones in the cloud. and they could manage this all through the Chainstack platform. So you can come in, and in just a few clicks, you can deploy a Corda network that has NMS and Doorman and Notary right out of the box, and an initial node for you to immediately start installing Corda apps and running prototypes and testing your applications all within the platform. We also built an interface for people to manage all of this so they can install their Corda apps entirely from within Chainstack without ever leaving the platform. And this was well received, and we had a lot of interesting partners and people who were making use of it. And over the past year, we've been working very closely with R3 and the Corda Network Foundation to see sort of where we took it next. And that's where we launched our latest kind of adventure into the Corda ecosystem, which is making it equally easy as we did to deploy a Corda network, but to deploy actually a Corda node onto the Corda network itself. So like I said, we work very closely with the Corda Network Foundation and launched support for that a couple of months ago. So people can, again, in just a few clicks, deploy a node running in the cloud of their choice, in the region of their choice, connected automatically to the Chainstack network, or the Corda network, or Corda pre-production network as well.
Yeah, okay, that sounds really good. I mean, but we really talked about a lot of things here, I guess. We talked about deploying Corda on your own sort of creating your own network maybe, and then we talked about the Corda Network Foundation. We talked about the Corda Network, which is basically a global network for interoperable Corda apps, right? So let's take it one by one. So before that, the one thing that I probably would like to question you is when you say deployments of Corda on Chainstack, I as a developer, let's say I am new to this entire thing, I don't know, I just know some of the words of Corda, I have done it on my local system. How easy would you think a new developer would find when he goes and tries out Chainstack?
Well, hopefully we can show it in a minute, but it's incredibly straightforward, and this is one of the kind of strong suits that we have at Chainstack, and something we've aimed of building the platform, which is, yeah, making it, you know, a few click process, literally, to be able to have a network up and running in no time. So we have wizards that, you know, guide you through the steps, providing us some details, some names, and so on. But we perform all the orchestration, all the automation. We handle ourselves so that the developers themselves don't have to think about it, basically.
Cool. That sounds really easy. I think you have done a lot of hard work into bringing these things so that it becomes really easy for people. It's just like clicking few buttons, and then maybe we can have a demo of that later on when we talk more about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so since you're talking about this, so basically, if I can see, there are two aspects to this, right? Like one talks about deploying Corda nodes using Chainstack, and other also talks about, you also spoke about setting up a Corda network, right? Using Chainstack. So can you elaborate a bit on these two different aspects? And of course, we'll move on to the demo, but just to give us an idea about these two different aspects.
Sure. So yeah, they're of course fundamentally different and kind of different use cases as well. If we start with the deploying a Corda network itself, there's much more that you're setting up, because to have an initial Corda network running, as I mentioned, you need to have all the network services, like the network map service, handle, you know, permissions of who can join and who can't join this network, identity, you know, configuring and generating identities for all the nodes that want to join, having a notary service as well, so that you can prevent double spend on the network, and, you know, you can manage, you know, flows can go through and be notarized. So this is actually, in fact, you know, a much more comprehensive setup, but it also means that you have to, you are responsible to build up this network if you wanted to have other participants join. So once you build this sort of private compatibility zone, as it's called, or let's say like a consortium network, you then need to go out and find, you know, onboard other participants. Otherwise, you'll just be a single node operating in a network. So The use case we've seen here is a lot of people use this as a test environment so that they can spin up very quickly a network that's a real life network that they can run nodes on, they can build applications on top of, they can integrate this into their CI/CD pipelines if they wanted to, build and destroy very quickly networks and experiment on them. But if you were then to grow it, you would have to, of course, invite other member participants to come and join and generate identities for them and have them on board, which we also facilitate in Chainstack. Now, on the other hand, when we talk about the Corda network, the value in the Corda network, which, as Ashutosh mentioned, is a network of Corda nodes and applications, is that the network services are all, it's set up and it's managed for you on by the Corda Network Foundation, the not-for-profit, right? That handles all of the onboarding, they handle the identity management, that they do sort of the KYC process of ensuring everyone knows who else is on this network. And the beauty is that you can come and just deploy once you've had, been approved, gone through the pre-approval steps from the Corda network, which takes some time validating your documents and ensuring you are who you say you are and you're a legal business entity and so on and so forth. You can then, with this approval, join a node, just a single node, into this existing network. So that's the difference. One is starting a network from scratch and building that up yourself versus joining one single node onto the existing Corda network, which is, once you've joined it, you now immediately have hundreds of participants around the world that you can start transacting with.
Correct. Cool. Yeah. So on this, when you say that you can set up your own network using Chainstack and you can deploy your own nodes using Chainstack, so how does this work? Like, do you have on-premise deployment, or do you have your own cloud infrastructure, or you integrate with other cloud providers for this kind of deployment? How does this work basically behind the scenes?
Mm-hmm. So at the moment, for our, let's say, entry-level customers that you can sign up today and get a plan going, we deploy into 3 different clouds, so AWS, GCP, and Azure, in a couple of different regions as well. Managed clusters that we manage and deploy into on your behalf. Talking about our roadmap a little bit, we will be also automating the process of allowing customers to deploy into their own clusters so they can configure their own cloud environment in Chainstack, and we can deploy straight into their own cloud accounts, so that Chainstack is the orchestration tool, but they still have run their and manage their resources themselves. We can also do on-prem hosting, and more advanced configurations like this is targeted more towards our larger customers, enterprise customers, who we can work with closely to set up this sort of custom on-prem environment for them.
Cool. That's really good to hear about that. But one question that really comes to my mind here is, when you talk of one is the deployment of Corda networks onto the global Corda network, which we'll talk about that. But before that, when we say creating your own Corda network on Chainstack, right? That's also one of the features which you support, right? So that requires, there are 2 different things. For a development setup, it's something like a bootstrap network that we use, where your keys and all these things are like auto-generated by a script. And then the other thing is a dynamic network, where you have an actual network map, and then you have this signing services which through which you onboard these entities and all. So how does Chainstack take care of these things? One thing that I know is from an enterprise Corda perspective, there is a separate product which is called as the ENM, or the Enterprise Network Manager, which takes care of these things. So does Chainstack use that particular piece of software, or you have something of your own that you use to create all these network artifacts and stuff?
Yeah, we use our own services to generate all of this. When we deploy a initial Corda network node, it's all using Corda Open Source. And yes, we deploy the network map service and generate the identities on behalf of our customers. When it comes to the Corda network itself, we obviously integrate with the identity service of Corda itself. So we make it very easy to generate and retrieve your identities from the Corda Network identity service. But when you deploy your own network, we also deploy an identity service that you can manage through our interface. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We are also looking to add more extensibility towards custom identities and maybe integrating with your external HSM and things like this, so that you have more control over how these identities are stored, and some sort of larger concerns around people who might have more robust systems of their own security and privacy concerns. And we want this to integrate closely into Chainstack so that we can plug this in and make use of those sort of services that are living outside of Chainstack, but can still be plugged into your network that's being managed there.
Yeah, that's good. So you have your own sort of systems that you have built, a network map or something, which are
yes,
so
yes, that's right.
Your own APIs and stuff for that. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yona, is it possible if I have my own network map service deployed somewhere to integrate this with the existing Chainstack deployment?
It's not currently something that we've worked on out of the box, but we may be able to. We do work with a lot of one-off cases with our customers for kind of advanced custom configuration, and it might be possible on a one-off basis.
Okay, so you do have some custom configurations done for specific customers as well if needed.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, you can think of it. You can log in today and sign up for an account and start deploying infrastructure with all of the sort of automation tools and interfaces that we've built. But really, anything custom we can do behind the scenes as is needed. And if we get enough requests for such a feature, or we see that a lot of our customers are interested in this kind of customization, then often what we'll do is extend it into the platform so that they can manage it themselves. So when we have this kind of tight relationship with people who are building on Corda, then we get a good idea of what would make sense to automate and enable for everyone to do.
Correct, cool. Also, if right now you were talking about the Corda network, so if I really have to talk about the Corda network, we know that we have something called as the doorman or the identity manager who does the KYC process. Then the entities they undergo this KYC process, and once the KYC is done, these entities are onboarded, these nodes are onboarded, and once they're onboarded, these can now start interacting with each other, and this is how we can achieve interoperability. Let's say we can have an insurance network talking to a reinsurance network or talking to a hospital network. So basically, different networks can interoperate with each other. So do we have something similar, or do we also provide this kind of interoperability when it comes to deploying on Chainstack?
Well, I mean, in this case where we have different networks, I mean, business networks operating with each other, I guess the compatibility zone, and they're all sort of based on the Corda apps that they run, the applications that they're running, they can form business networks within this compatibility zone. And so in Chainstack, what we're doing is deploying the compatibility zone, which then you have the freedom to join nodes into it. You could have an external node also that's not running in Chainstack could join into this compatibility zone as well. And as long as they're running the same, applications, they can operate within these smaller business networks. And as for what you mentioned about the identity, the doorman and identity management and so on, so we provide an interface in Chainstack where you can invite other organizations to participate in your network, and then we handle the whole, the process of generating the certificates for this person once they accept the invitation and deploy a node, and we automate that process all entirely for them, so that it happens essentially behind the scenes, and it's much more straightforward, which I'll show in a second.
Cool. Okay, from a point of view of comparing Chainstack with other cloud providers? Like, if you see, there are other these something like blockchain as a service which others also provide. So, what do you think is the main key differentiator between Chainstack and these things?
Sure. Yeah, so we've always sort of prided ourselves on three things. One is the flexibility. So we are multi-cloud out of the box, meaning customers can deploy their infrastructure wherever makes sense for them. This is not the case everywhere in the industry, and we try to be like as flexible as possible for different use cases and different needs. So particularly if you're a partner, maybe who's running nodes on behalf of your own customers, and all these customers are operating in different environments. I mean, this is the nature of the distributed ledger, the network itself. We want these participants all to be able to, using a single tool, manage a network that's deployed in a variety of different environments. So the flexibility is one. The other is the ease of use. I mean, that's something that, like I mentioned, we've worked very hard to have this be something that you don't need a certification to be able to run. Straight out of the box, we're very developer friendly. We are releasing a set of APIs as well, and generally making it something that developers will want to spend their time in, and equally, even more, let's say, managers or non-technical participants could also have an ability to come in and browse and explore and understand the network and so on. And finally is the pricing. So we also have very predictable pricing that is very transparent and clear, that you can get started. As I said, you can sign up straight away out of the box without going through any any long sales processes. So yeah, as an orchestration tool, you don't have to be worried about being locked in with any particular provider. And yeah, making the node and network management process as quick and seamless as possible.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds really great. Just one question, like we really want to see the demo. But am I audible to you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Ashutosh.
Yeah. Okay. So before we do the demo, just so that we just understand what the time it would take. So if I want to deploy a Corda network onto the Chainstack platform, how much time would it take for me to just get started?
Well, let's say it will take you 1 minute to configure or to choose your settings, and then 5 to 10 minutes for us to actually to spin up the network, which happens in the background. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we can just have a look at how the UI looks like, and then once your things get processed in the backend, we can just continue the conversation there.
Yeah, sure.
So Yona, is it literally just 1 minute to configure?
Well, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, so this is the Chainstack dashboard, what you would see if you logged in. I have a few different projects here already. And the way we organize our projects in Chainstack is either by consortium or public chain. Consortium meaning that you are deploying your own consortium, or in this case, like private Corda network, or public chain, in which case we're connecting nodes onto an existing public chain. So in this case, it would be Corda, the Corda network, for example. So we can take a look at this project here, where I have a few test nets that I've set up already. And actually, maybe we can take a look at these later rather than waiting for our deployment to finish. And we can check back on that deployment later to ensure that it's gone through smoothly. But yeah, talking about identity management first, this project, I can manage the members that are involved. And these are the kind of different organizations that have their own accounts and are free to deploy their own resources into the networks within this project. So I can easily just invite someone to come and participate here with their email address. They'll receive an email, they can click through and sign up, and they'll be listed in the member list here. So to deploy a network, all we have to do is give it a name. choose our protocol that we want to work with, in this case, Corda. We'll deploy it with a single notary for now. We're working on supporting, notary clusters, but it's not something that we've done at the moment for our testnets. We choose our hosting options. So in this case, I'll deploy in maybe GCP in Singapore. And our the first participant node in this network will be, let's say, like our service node. And as you can see, this network will be created with a network map service, a non-validating notary, and this initial participant node. So that's our summary, and we'll create the network. So that will take, as I mentioned, about 10 minutes or so.
Okay, so
we can have.
This is going to do everything in the background. You just have these 2 or 3 fields to fill up.
That's it. So yeah, we will spin up everything and generate the identities and have everything working in no time.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. So I think we have a couple of questions from our audience here. So one of them is, how does Chainstack manage Corda upgrades? So do you have an answer to that? Would you like to take that on?
Yeah, so I can show the Corda installation process at the moment. So maybe this is a good node. This one doesn't have any at the moment. I can take a look at some of my other networks here. I think I forgot to install Corda before I started. Yes, but essentially we can just drop our jar files here and install and remove Corda apps on our node. We perform some advanced checks here to ensure that something is not going to break the node, that we're installing correct files. In the case that we do install some jar file that interrupts our node in some way or causes it to break, we do some sort of handling there of ensuring that we'll remove the flow, the Corda app, sorry, if we encounter any errors, and reboot that node just to ensure that we have as minimal downtime as possible on our Corda node, and instruct the user to try again with something that would not break it. We do a little bit of flow handling ourselves to ensure that we put the node into draining mode and so on and so forth, to give more visibility for our customers into the flows that are currently running on their node and some control over that so that they can handle this process themselves and have visibility into what's going on in their node. We also expose the node logs so that you can take a look here and see what's going on and also understand if there's anything in progress or so on, and make decisions yourself about when you would be able to install or make any changes. For upgrades, we don't have a particular interface or wizard, let's say, for having smooth upgrades. The process at the moment is that you would, in your Corda app section here, remove an existing Corda app and upload the new version. And we would reboot the node with that updated Corda app, and that's that.
Yeah, so that's pretty much, I think, what you do in an upgrade. At least for the implicit one, you just replace the Corda app. So yeah, a couple of clicks probably will do that, do the upgrade thing as well. So we have another question here, which is Chainstack network support particular version of Corda, or how does Chainstack manage different versions of Corda?
Yeah, so we always try to deploy our, if we're deploying a new network, a new node, using the latest version. You see this one is running OS 4.4. When it comes to upgrades, version upgrades, we work with customers individually to upgrade their resources for them. They may not want to. They may want to stick with their version in case they're breaking changes and so on and so forth. So we handle that on an individual basis. And also, if we have any clients that are interested in running a particular version of Corda, maybe they've spent a lot of time developing Corda apps and network infrastructure that would work for an older version of Corda, we can work with them to do this custom configuration, as I mentioned, and deploy a different version. But generally, when you deploy your resources, we try to keep our platform as up to date as possible with the latest stable versions.
Okay,
We
cool.
also have,
Yeah, go on. Go on.
Okay, so
yeah, we also have the ability to bring your own license if you have a Corda Enterprise as well.
so,
Yeah.
you can go ahead.
Okay. So, Yona, you spoke about deploying different
So it's
versions.
like the latest version is what you.
Yeah, go ahead,
Sorry,
Ashutosh.
what was that?
Yeah. So I was saying that you spoke about deploying different versions of
No,
Corda.
you can go ahead. I was just.
Yeah. So Yona, you were saying about deploying different versions of Corda, right? So since we're talking about versions, does Chainstack support both open source as well as enterprise, or it as of now just supports open source?
Yeah, so this deployment here will be open source. We're working on, again, on a one-off basis where our customers will bring their enterprise licenses and we work with them to install an enterprise version. Yeah, out of the box here through our wizard, at the moment, we support just open source. And then, yeah, bring your own license model for enterprise.
Okay, so still the deployment is going on. Just one more question is, so let's say that I'm a developer and I really want to use Chainstack to deploy my Corda nodes. So is there a trial period or something for me just to go and try out Chainstack and to get a feel of how the deployment works or something like that?
Yep. So you can go to chainstack.com/pricing and you'll see all the details there. But essentially, we have a developer plans which are free for 14 days, meaning you can run any resources you want and you won't get charged for it during this period. So you can test out as much as you like. And then after those 14 days, you can continue using Chainstack, but we start to charge for the resources consumed. So if you have any nodes running or networks running, we have hourly metered pricing. So you pay, yeah, basically pay as you go for any usage you have. If you have a node running for 1 day, you pay just for 1 day, and that's it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. So there is something like a initial trial period which developers could utilize,
Yeah,
right? So
2 weeks. Yeah.
okay, we have one more question from the audience here. So do you have some sort of out-of-box backup or restore process?
Sorry, was that about backup or restore?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. So right now, again, we do backup and restore, but it's something that we work with one-off configurations. Something I can discuss now, which is probably one of the first times we're publicly mentioning it, which is the marketplace that we are putting together and will be releasing relatively soon. And this will allow you to extend the services that are connected to your node and your networks. And one of such offerings will be a backup and recovery service, since we know this is something that's really important in generally in any Corda ecosystem, particularly in production environments. And we want people to be able to manage this themselves and not have to go through us to configure such a setup. So yeah, we'll be adding this and among other things to our marketplace as well. And maybe now is a good time to mention we're looking also we have a few interested partners that we'll be launching with, but this will be a great place for anyone who's developing and building applications on Corda to also list their applications so that Chainstack customers can browse and find their solution in the Chainstack marketplace and in just 1 or 2 clicks deploy it onto their Corda nodes and networks. So that's something we're really excited about, and please do get in touch if anyone's interested in getting featured there.
Wow, that's awesome. Yona, but just to add to this, you're talking about backup and restoration. So when I talk about backup, do you mean about backup related to database, or you're talking about backup related to the files and directories which the Corda apps create? So, so any idea about that?
Yeah, so you can see here the resources that are involved in this node, both the node itself and the underlying database, and they would back up all all resources and all storage that that are associated with this node and the Corda apps as well.
Wow, this is really great because these questions, we've been getting this question quite often about how do I literally back up my database, how do I back up my Corda apps, and how do I restore it? So yeah, this is something really we definitely look forward to this.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like this guy is still going.
Okay,
we can maybe discuss the Corda network if that's something that you guys are interested to take a look at. Yeah,
before that, maybe we'll just take another question, which has come up from the audience here. So the question is the pricing on a transactional basis, or is it on the resource utilization, like the duration that the node is up?
So we do have on every tier above the entry developer tier, we have a minimal sort of monthly membership cost, and then so that's sort of the fixed monthly cost, and then above that you pay for the metered usage of your nodes. So we can have a look at, actually maybe this is not the right account to have a look, but yeah, we have very transparent pricing that at any time you can look into your usage costs, exactly what you've consumed for compute and storage for any node that you have running, and we bill monthly and charge hourly for that.
Yeah, fine. I think that should answer the question. So on the account of the time left, let's move on till this thing comes up. Let's move on to the other part where we talked about the Corda network part, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly is that you offer from? So it's more like deploying onto the Corda network, right? So one is you deploy onto a node connected to the Corda network, right? And the other thing which you talked about is something around onboarding or something, right? So can you explain the onboarding part a little bit more?
Yeah, so before anyone can join onto the Corda network, you need to go through a series of steps first, which is first registering with, as I mentioned previously, registering with the Corda Network Foundation, going through a series of checks with them to ensure you are who you say you are. And towards the end of this sort of KYC process, they issue you with what's called your legal name, and you have also a node operator email address. And essentially, with these credentials, you need to spin up a inside its node configuration, and it will trigger a what's called the certificate signing request to the Corda Network Foundation, which will respond often in a matter of days or so. So it's a process to go through the onboarding checks that are required to get your identity, your certificates that you would need to then put on your node that would allow it to join the Corda network. So we've tried to simplify this process as much as possible and also give a centralized way for our customers to manage all of this in the Chainstack dashboard. And this is where we've introduced our Vault. And what this is a secure encrypted environment where we can store and manage the status of these identities. And you can imagine in the case of someone who's maybe a partner who deploys and manages a lot of nodes on behalf of their customers. This is something that we've seen particularly in like business network operators. They often are managing the resources and the infrastructure on behalf of the customers who are deploying nodes into their business networks. We can control all of these identities from one place. So the identities themselves are distinct from or separated from the node. And we can port and take these identities with us wherever we like. So I'll show you what it looks like and how easy it is to sort of trigger that certificate signing request and retrieve our identities all from within Chainstack.
Yeah, before that, maybe Sneha, would you like to do a two-liner on what's the difference between the Corda network and the normal Corda network so that people who are not aware can really understand what we are talking about here?
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so just for the developers who've logged in, so basically we have different types of networks. So one network which Jonas spoke about was the local bootstrap network, right? Which we can set up and we can have it locally set up and we can deploy the nodes locally on our network. The other type of network is what Yona is talking about, is the Corda network. So right now he's showing us about how Chainstack can be integrated with the Corda network, where basically the Corda network is nothing but a network which was launched by our which was launched in December 2018, and this is basically run by a non-for-profit organization, and so this is the Corda network. And the other type of network, which also it's one of the product you can say of R3, is CENM, which is the Enterprise Network Manager. So if you want to set up a private network, you can use CENM to set up this kind of network as well. So essentially, these are the three different types of networks. So I think right now, Yona, you're going to show us how to integrate with the Corda network, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, just to add, one point to add to that is the question is, why would you even would you join a global network, right? Like the Corda network. So that's because the vision behind that was to allow interoperability of multiple Corda apps. So you think of a big global Corda network where multiple sub networks could coexist and they can interoperate between each other. So that's why the global Corda network was built, and it's still around there. I don't know what's the number of nodes that's there, but it's really a good number of businesses that are already running on the Corda network. So yeah, Yona, you can maybe just go ahead and show us how to onboard onto the Corda network.
Yeah, so we're going to add an identity here. I'm choosing Corda, of course, and I'll go to the pre-production network so as not to bother the Corda network production team itself with my test.
So when you say the pre-production network, is it the testnet?
Yeah, it's the sort of UAT version of the Corda network itself. In all essences, it's exactly the same in terms of setup and services and so on. But I think the charges are less or non-existent, so that you can test and run and all of your Corda apps in a pre-production environment in that way. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So just to add to if people don't understand what the pre-production network is, so we talked about the Corda network. There is also something called as the testnet. So basically, if you think of the Corda network as the live or the production network, then the testnet is where you could test your applications. The testnet is basically free. You could
and what's great is you can test your application in a near real environment, near production environment, where there are still hundreds of participants on this network as well. Okay, so we will choose that as a network. We have two options here. Currently, we can create new certificates, which is implying like we've registered with the Corda Network Foundation, and we want to retrieve new certificates from them. We'll also soon be able to import existing ones, which currently we do only on a one-off basis at the moment, but we'll be automating this process soon, which means that if you have previously joined the Corda network and you've maybe been running a node locally or somewhere else, and you already have your certificates for your node's identity, then you'll be able to upload those certs here. And in the case that you would want to move the management of your node onto Chainstack so that you don't have to worry about this anymore, and Chainstack instead ensures that your node is up and running, well maintained, highly available, and so on, you could port your certificates to the Chainstack vault and then deploy a node using those. But in this case, we'll create a new one and put in our operator email, and we'll put in our legal name. And this will trigger the certificate signing request. And as I said, it could take a few days for it to be approved, which is why it's great that we can manage this all in a single view here and have visibility into our different responses. As you can see, I had one that was rejected. The rejection reason is shown. So in this case, I'd use a duplicate legal name. And in the case when we have one that's been approved, we give all the credentials here to use it and access it. And you could also export this identity, delete it as well from Chainstack, and port it elsewhere and deploy a node using your identity there. So we really give you full control and flexibility again with how you use these. We can see here that my network from before was deployed successfully. So we could just quickly look at that. We see it is indeed running here with a single node, and we have all the credentials that we would need to connect to it, and the logs are being pulled through and so on. But yeah, so now we obviously can't wait for this identity to be completed to retrieve the certificates from the network operator. But we can use one of these other ones that I've set up previously to show how we would then join a node onto the Corda network using this. So here you can see I have already some nodes on both Corda production and pre-production networks. I'll just add another one. So we'll use Corda, pre-production, and now we can choose one of the available identities that have not been used before on that are free for use, that we've successfully received from the Corda Network Foundation. We choose where to deploy this node. And again, just like that, in a few minutes, we'll have a node up and running on Corda pre-production network. And the process is exactly the same for joining the production network as well. Yeah, and actually something I also forgot to mention about our private networks here that I set up earlier. This is the wrong one. As you can see, this initial node is running in GCP in Singapore. And if we want to, we can add, this network is totally dynamic. We can add and remove as many nodes as we want at any point. And let's say we want to add another one. We can put it in AWS in the US. As I mentioned, this network is totally multi-cloud out of the box. And we have more regions and more cloud hosting options being added all the time. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. It's really good to see how easy it is to deploy nodes onto a network, just a few clicks and it's all done for you. That's really a great dashboard, and it's a very good workflow as well, I guess. Quite easy for people to start with, I guess, for new developers who are not who doesn't know much about how to set up a Corda network. It gives them a lot of flexibility to do that and just try out. Well, so I think we are almost almost about to end this one. So before we end, just one final question which I have from my end is, where do you see, like maybe 1 year down the line, what are the different things that you're trying to do achieve in the future with Corda?
Yeah, sure. So we have quite an extensive roadmap for Corda, and there's a lot that you can do, you can imagine, in terms of simplifying and making a really great experience for
one of them probably is to upgrade to 4.5, which was just released yesterday. Some work for you guys, no?
Yeah. Well, let's see. It shouldn't take too long. We're usually quite fast to look for the next release. Yeah, so just generally looking more into supporting, for example, Corda app installation to make it even easier as it is now. And like I said, the marketplace to facilitate people to install, predefined Corda apps and applications and sell them on the marketplace. We're adding sort of APIs to also make orchestration a lot easier, so people can dynamically deploy and manage their resources on Chainstack via API. And all in all, adding more capability around orchestration, monitoring of nodes is something that we know is very important as well. So looking at, as I mentioned, the flows that are running, the health and the performance of your nodes over time, so that people can use this as a one-stop environment to monitor all of their resources. And yeah, generally more, as we mentioned, backup and recovery. There's so many areas and angles that we can work on and build out to support the community and to make make it very easy for our customers to deploy their infrastructure in a way that makes sense for them. So yeah, we have a deep commitment to the Corda community, and we look forward to what's coming in the next year or so.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yona, for joining us. But before we end, I think we just had one question coming in, so let's just answer that before we close this. Do you support Corda Firewall?
Again, not out of the box, but yes, it's something that we have worked with customers to set up for them, since it's a requirement in a lot of more production environments.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably you would like to put something on your roadmap on this as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Yona, it was great talking to you. Thanks for joining us. I guess we really enjoyed it. I guess you also had a good time talking to us, and we had some good conversations with our audience as well. Thanks everyone who have joined us today on this conversation, and we'll look forward to bring more of these kind of interviews and conversations with our clients and partners going forward. Thank you so much, Yona, and to all
Great.
of us.
Thank you both. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks, Yona. Thanks for your commitment to Corda. This is going to really help the developers.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.